All right, good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the September user group. We're delighted to have you with us. So today is all about extending our capability and our engagement using Eloqua apps and connectors. It's been a while since we've covered some of these various apps, so we thought we'd take a bit of a deep dive and share a little bit of information with you about what's available and in some cases what's coming. So let's dive in and give you an outline of what we're expecting today. So, welcome and housekeeping. We do have a couple of questions and we'll get to those. Also, apps we love, why we love them, connectors, what's the difference? Always on campaigns that can potentially behave like an app. No, they're not really an app, but they can kind of behave the same sort of way. So, we'll look at that as well. And then a little bit of a recap on Release 23C and some exciting news for Zoom users if you're on the call today. So my name is Derek Bell. I'm your host for today's session, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Customer Success at Marketing Cube. We have Adrian Jones on the line. Adrian's going to be talking to us about one of these apps that's coming. So we look forward to hearing about that. And then also Sean, one of our account directors. So we look forward to talking with you. So go ahead and use the chat function. As you know, we use Zoom to present our webinars. So please use the Q&A. Everybody can see that. If you'd rather submit a private question, you can do that using the chat function as well. All right, so let's dive in and have a look at the question. So this was a reasonably technical question, which required me to go back to Danny. Now, Danny won't be on the call today because he's in the US, I imagine. But I thought still the question is kind of relevant. So he's using Tableau, using Eloqua, but the thing that struck me was he's not using a CRM, which is a little bit unusual in that architecture. Now, from what I can understand in my email dialogue with Danny, he's in an environment where his team or department have access to a portion of Eloqua. Okay, so his team does not use a CRM, so it's possible that others may use a CRM in other parts of the business, but I don't know the answer to that. But fundamentally, the question related to, is there a connector or some level of integration between Eloqua and Tableau? And the answer is yes, there is. How you do it, well, that's going to depend on a whole range of different things. There are a range of options to do that best. In his scenario, perhaps an SFTP would be better, so secure file transfer. So these apps are available from third-party vendors. It's something that Marketing Cube is able to do as well. We do this with a range of different applications for people. So apps typically come with a monthly fee or maybe an annual upfront fee, and that's ongoing in addition to, for example, the Tableau and Eloqua costs. That's just typically how apps work. Not all of them, but most of them. But SFTP can also be something to consider as well. We do this with a number of clients where they've got data sitting in a particular platform that they need to bring into Eloqua, and that data is presented from that platform in exactly the same format every single time. Maybe it's every hour, maybe it's once a day, maybe it's once a week, whatever the schedule is. Eloqua is able to go and pick up that file and bring that into Eloqua using SFTP, so emphasis on secure file transfer protocol, to bring that into Eloqua and then upload. If it's contacts, it's uploading them. If it's account information, it's updating account information. If it's putting information into custom objects, it can do that as well. So there's a range of different ways to do that. And to really answer that question for Danny, we probably need to take it offline and have a discussion. But just wanted to let you know, because I thought there were some relevant things there for all of us to be aware of. Now, the next question is from Cindy, also in the US. But again, I kind of thought this was relevant. If we've got Salesforce CRM clients using Eloqua on the call today, this would be something that you're possibly aware of. So her question relates essentially to the merge functionality contained within Salesforce. So if I have two contacts, which is her example, so if I have two contacts who are in fact the same human, but potentially with two different email addresses, they want to merge them in Salesforce, and that would make sense, obviously, to do that. So what I tried to do was create a bit of a graphic and do some testing just to confirm a few things. Let me show you this. So I've decided to approach it from a before merge and after merge scenario. So Salesforce on the left, Eloqua on the right. So in Salesforce CRM, we've got an email address at Gmail and another one at Hotmail, two contact IDs, two completely separate contact IDs, but we want to merge those because they're the same. Now, before we merge them, we need to realize that because there are two separate email addresses, over in Eloqua, there is going to be two separate contacts stored within Eloqua. And notice the Eloqua ID, which is the email address, but also there is another ID, which is unique to that particular contact. And then the Pearl, I was just curious to see if the Pearl, what would happen there. So after the merge, what happens? Well, in CRM world, we're now left with a single contact. In this case, we chose the Gmail address to be the primary one from the merge point of view. And so it maintained that particular ID. Now, for all intents purposes, what's happening in the CRM is that derek@hotmail.com is deleted. Okay, so during the merge process, one of the contacts is deleted and other data is merged onto the platform to create a single contact. Okay, so what happens over in Eloqua at the same time? So the Eloqua ID information, the Pearl, etc., the email, that all remains the same. However, just simply doing what I described means that derek@hotmail.com remains in Eloqua, which is spelled horrendously incorrectly there. That's a really good typo. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is a few things. There are a range of ways to manage that. The core underlying, I suppose, feature development that Eloqua users are looking for is a merge functionality. If there was a merge functionality in Eloqua, that would be helpful. Yeah, the underlying issue is that we don't have a merge functionality within Eloqua. And Eloqua's underlying principle, of course, is that we don't make it easy to delete a contact. Okay, so we can restrict that to administrators because your contacts, they have commercial value. And if we just make it simple and for people to delete willy-nilly, there's, potentially that's not a good thing. So there are ways around this, and the integration can be modified to help identify, specifically speaking here of the Salesforce integration, there are ways with the integration to identify contacts or leads from Salesforce that have been deleted and to then flag those in Eloqua. So they can be grouped in such a way that you would then have to delete them. Now, you're still going to have to manually delete them. I think Eloqua, out of principle, is very reticent to automate any deletion. That process really needs to keep a human in the loop. No AI on that one probably is a good move. But there is a solution. So if you're looking, if you're a Salesforce CRM and Eloqua client, then, and if that's something that is causing annoyance for you or a little bit of frustration, reach out and give us a call. We'd be very happy to have a chat with you and walk through the best solution for you on that particular one. All right, so let's dive in and have a look at, oh, and thank you, Adrian, for the two cameras. Yep, thank you. All right. Okay, so apps we love and why we love them. So apps have been around for a long time, and many of you probably use them. What I want to try and do today is make you aware of how many there are. There are just literally hundreds of apps that are available, and quite often it's not until you have a business case or a pressing need that an app becomes a good solution. It's not something that you kind of casually cruise over to the app store and or the app cloud store and wander around. It's, you have a business need, then you'll go to the app store to try and find something. So what I want to try to do today is expose you to some of the more popular apps, both paid and unpaid, that we see clients using, and in some cases that we use ourselves as well. So fundamentally, what you're able to do with apps in the app cloud is integrate with various external systems. So external to Eloqua. So we're talking, well, we just talked about Salesforce CRM, that has an app. Talking to Zoom, like we're doing today. So there's a Zoom app, working its way in the background today, gathering information, hopefully for me, which will enable me to automate a few things at the end of our session today. So I'll cover more of those in a moment. But essentially, apps can be used on the campaign canvas. They can be used on landing pages, in emails. There's a range of applications for them. And who develops them? Who makes them? Well, in some cases, Oracle marketing apps make them. So it's a team within Oracle that produce these apps. But some may be produced by third parties. So, for instance, the Zoom app that you may or may not be using today is actually produced by Oracle. to connect the Zoom product with Eloqua. And I've got some exciting news, finally, on the Zoom app for you later in today's call. So hang around for that one. So let's have a closer look. Let's look at some of the more popular ones. So certainly On24, which is being designed and built, my understanding is by the team at On24. There are two apps that do slightly different things, but most clients will actually install both of these apps to get this functionality across their On24 webinar campaigns and what they're trying to do. Some of the others, there's Zoom, there's WebEx, there's Citrix GoToWebinar, and I believe there may even be a new version of Citrix GoToWebinar coming along. But fundamentally, I suppose On24 is probably the richest in relation to the amount of data that you can bring back from that whole webinar experience. The Zoom, WebEx, and GoTo, which all talk to the webinar products. So you'll know if you're a WebEx client or a GoToWebinar person, that there's also Citrix GoToMeeting and WebEx Meeting, for instance, and those sorts of things. So these apps speak to the webinar solution and typically enables you to register people using Eloqua. You can get a confirmation from the platform, as in the webinar platform, who attended, who were no-shows, and bring that information back into Eloqua. In some cases, not with all of them, but in some cases, you can also look at bringing back in poll results. You certainly can with On24, not with Zoom, and I'm unsure, sorry, with WebEx and Citrix, but I believe from memory, it may be WebEx that enables you to bring back in poll results. I'd need to double check that. If there's anyone on the line today using them, maybe you can let us know. That would be great. Now, the other one that I wanted to add here, which is not a webinar platform, but is the external activity creator. So if you wanted to record automatically, and you could do this from the campaign canvas, to record that somebody attended a webinar or was in fact a no-show at the webinar, and you wanted to create that as an external activity, keeping in mind things like external activities are then also visible through Profiler. So if the sales team are looking at Profiler, they would be able to see that a person attended the webinar and the name of the webinar, for example. So that could work nicely on your campaign canvas at the same time as well. I use that one all the time, by the way. It's super handy. And for that primary reason, that it's visible in Profiler, but it also makes my segmentation really easy as well when I want to identify who attended and who were the no-shows across different webinars. So that's the external activity creator. All right. The next few I want to show you relate to sort of data cleansing, asset refinement, and just data and dates. So the contact washing machine is an absolute classic. It's probably the mainstay, and I don't know if it's the #1 app. It's funny, there's only 3 reviews there, but I think most clients I know use the contact washing machine in some form or another. The nice thing about that one, it is available for use on the campaign and also the program canvas within Eloqua, which is cool. And it really automates and does a whole bunch of different things. It can, at the most basic level, it's great to ensure that your first name in an email is in fact in proper case. So if you've got suspect data flowing in from a CRM and poor data management, I suppose, from a CRM point of view, which is not unusual, by the way, then the contact washing machine is really helpful because you can make sure that all of your emails, all of your landing pages, any externally facing communications, when you talk to a person and use their name, that you can be in proper case and not screaming at them in uppercase or just all in lowercase. That's just one function of the contact washing machine. It does mathematical functions for you. It can manipulate and move data from one field to another. There's a whole swag of things that it can do. And it's a bit like, unless there's a business case or a problem that you're trying to solve, it's probably not until then that you would go to the contact washing machine to try and find that one. The form submit action, what that enables you to do is actually submit a form on the campaign canvas. So if you were using a form to trigger something going in a certain direction, whether it's off to the CRM or maybe it's as simple as triggering a notification email to a salesperson or the contact owner, then using a form submit action can be a nice way to do that. So you can do that directly on the campaign canvas as you route people through in different directions. Litmus is a very popular application used by digital marketers and obviously email marketers around the world. The Litmus plugin is pretty elegant. It plugs right into Eloqua right there in the email design editor. You're able to submit emails and get the results back and see all of that directly within the email design editor. Now, my recollection, the last time I did look at this, so Litmus does have, I think it's 3 tiers of pricing. And their top level pricing, let's call it corporate. I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but from memory, it's their top level of pricing. You have to have that version, that product of Litmus, in order to use their app within Eloqua, which I think is a bit strange why they would limit that necessarily. But anyway, but it is good. Everyone uses Litmus. They know how good it is. So you can incorporate that directly into Eloqua if that would be helpful for you. The one at the end here, the Oracle Date app, this is different to the compare date function that you possibly used on the campaign canvas. Now, the compare date step, that enables you to query the date as of the time and date a person enters a campaign. So is it on or after the 13th of July? Is it before the 15th of December, etc.? It's asking real date times. Don't confuse it with this one. So the Oracle Date app enables you to observe and query dates that would exist on the contact. Think of it this way, an enrollment date. So if you have a field on the contact and it's actually populated with a real date, so enrollment date, if you're at university, for example, maybe it's a contract expiry date. That could be another date, but it has to be a date field, right? So not a text field that someone's thrown a date into. The field type has to be a date in order for this to work. So with the Oracle Date app, what you can then do is query, for example, let's take expiry date. You have people coming through a campaign. You may query, is this person's contract expiry date within the next 30 days? Yes or no? If it is, you go in one direction. If it's not, you go in a different direction. So the Oracle Date app. So again, if you find yourself in a campaign where you've got dates that are helping you build your segment to get started, but obviously the timeframes can change and dates can change, and you want to make sure the date is still current and relevant right before an email goes out, then the Oracle Date app can be a good solution to help you with that. All right, so other types of apps that are available. So Motiva AI is a really interesting one, and we've been talking with the guys at Motiva for a couple of years now, and looking at their product development and what they do. They've been at this for quite a while, and it's certainly worth your while to have a little look. Now we're trying to see if we can get some sort of a presentation together before the year's out to revisit Motiva for all of our clients and friends across the region, because I think there's a good story there, which is very topical at the moment. As all of you would know, it's hard to open your inbox these days without seeing the term generative AI somewhere in your inbox. These guys have been doing it for a while. It's not new. So let's have a little bit of a deeper dive on that one at some point. We'll get some more details to you. Okay, now these next two, while obviously different platforms, essentially do the same thing. It's about finding leads, letting people have a form experience within those platforms. So if you want to present people in LinkedIn with access to a white paper or some thought leadership of some sort, you can, of course, just put a standard URL in there and send them to an Eloqua landing page or to your website, etc. That doesn't cost you anything. But it's also perhaps not quite as effective because you're relying purely on organic reach for that to happen. However, if you want to pay Facebook and LinkedIn for their lead gen type of activity related to forms, then you can actually integrate that directly into Eloqua onto the campaign canvas. So in LinkedIn, you will invite people to access a piece of thought leadership where they fill in a form. They fill in that form. They can use their LinkedIn profile to do that. Just a tip, keep in mind, most people use their personal email address on their LinkedIn profile. It's highly likely that in your engagement, depending on how you engage with people, you may really need their business email. Okay, so don't let them use their profile email to populate the form. Get them to type it in manually, just a tip. The key thing is with this app, and both of these apps are free, you've just got to pay for the advertising, obviously, on the relevant platforms. But the key thing that these things do is they bring that data directly into Eloqua. You don't have to log in, download CSV files, and then upload those into Eloqua, on a Monday and a Thursday, and people forget and mistakes happen. Plus, you've got personal identifiable data floating around the office on CSV files, which is probably not the best thing to be doing. So really elegant solutions, much faster. It means you can deliver the result and what you're offering much faster than having to rely on manual uploads. Now, Cvent. Cvent is a big, gnarly event management platform. It's pretty well known. It's a global platform. We've got a number of clients who use Cvent. They are larger organizations. Cvent does everything. I mean, you can set up a Cvent so that people can not only register for your conference, but book hotels, book flights, get their limo driver to pick them up. There's a whole range of depth of functionality with Cvent. And you can tie that into Eloqua to help have Eloqua manage all of your comms for you, which is quite elegant as well. So worth a look if you are a Cvent client and you weren't aware that it integrates. It absolutely does. Video obviously is another way from an omni-channel point of view, another way that we try and reach people. And there are a few organizations, Brightco Video, also Vidyard. Both of those have apps that enable you to very easily bring in your library of videos from those two platforms and have those display on Eloqua landing pages. And I believe in both cases also provide links in emails, like a visual representation in an email as well. So if you're using either of those two platforms, it's certainly worth exploring what that could look like. All right, let's jump into connectors and other ways to connect to Eloqua. So just to go back, so we use the term apps and then we use the term connectors. What's the difference? The term app was popularized by Apple when the company created the App Store in 2008. You might all remember that. It was a year after the first iPhone was released. I think boffins within the IT industry, the term app was not a new term. It probably had been around for quite a while. But the fact that it was popularized around 2008, things started to change and language started to change. So, of course, that whole term app in this context related purely to mobile devices, whether it's Android or Windows, etc. They all use the term apps. And so then as we move into other parts of the technology world, then we start to see the term app getting used pretty liberally and probably without any real solid definition of what an app is. But essentially, it's a piece of software. Where that app resides can be on a desktop, on a mobile device, and it can kind of be anywhere these days. What's a connector? The term connector had actually been around. I mean, I remember the term connector in an Eloqua context sort of pre-2007. Connectors was literally connecting two systems, right? It was connecting Eloqua with something else in a very literal sense, usually using APIs to do that, one cloud-based system with another. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about some of those and how we are kind of using those terms, and the way we use those terms may differ to somebody else that you talk to in relation to those terms. All right, so let me show you. So SMS for Eloqua is a big one. For many years, Marketing Cube has had their SMS app. That app is reliable, it's consistent, it's great for two-way communications, fantastic for event reminders. Some of you today would have received an SMS reminder to attend, so thank you for that. It's available to everybody. We don't use SMS for marketing at Marketing Cube. We only use it for event reminders. So please don't feel like you're going to be inundated with buy Eloqua today. It's not coming into you via SMS. That's not how we go to town. Within the last 12 months, and probably a little bit over 12 months actually, Eloqua released an add-on. Now, here's another word, right? Add-on, connector, app, right? So the difference with the Oracle Eloqua SMS solution is that it is a native solution as part of the platform. So just as email is a native part of the Eloqua platform, SMS is also a native part of the Eloqua platform. But if we go to a price list, you'll see it referred to as an add-on. meaning, yeah, it's an add-on. You pay a little bit more, and then that particular functionality is made available to you to utilize. Now, there are some advantages over the Eloqua platform versus the Marketing Cube app, but it really comes down at the end of the day as to what your objectives are and what sort of how aggressive your SMS as a channel strategy is. So if you're looking for intensive reporting and yeah, reporting is really the big one. It does give you a little bit richer functionality from a segmentation point of view as well. There's a little bit more you can do on the campaign canvas with it, but the reporting is certainly a big part of the story. But at the end of the day, as we said, it is native. Now, it has a price tag to match, obviously, versus the Marketing Cube solution, which I'd argue is probably more economical. But again, if you're just looking for event communications, two-way communication is available. That's not rocket science. I just recently we're moving house soon, and I had to get some blinds done. And there's a company in Sydney, I believe, I'm not sure if they're national, but they're called No Bull Blinds. Very simple, right? So I get an SMS reminder from them. The one thing I love about these guys is I can reply to that SMS and then they reply back to me. It's not a bot. It's actually a human saying, not a problem, Derek. Look forward to seeing you, et cetera, et cetera. So I can have that whole conversation on whichever channel I want to have with them without some bot screaming at me or having no idea what I'm talking about. So that two-way communication can work. Now, it works for them because they have an active call center with humans sitting at the other end who are able to respond to my SMS communication. So before you get too excited, you need to think about the humans that are going to be involved in that process. And that's regardless of whether it's Eloqua or Marketing Cube SMS app. So SMS apps available and pretty simple. This is the example of the Marketing Cube SMS app on the campaign canvas. And this is actually for those today who requested an SMS. You went through this step right here on the SMS app. So what we do is we work out based on when you registered, we asked you if you wanted an SMS app. Sorry, an SMS app. If you wanted an SMS reminder, if you said yes, we dropped you into a shared list. I then reference that shared list here on the campaign. We also then just double check to make sure we have a mobile number. It's pretty hard for that answer to be no, but I'd rather just double check. And so then the SMS is sent. I also then trigger the external activity. So remember one of the apps we looked at earlier. So I record that as external because it is external to Eloqua. It's a third-party platform delivering an SMS to you. So it's external to Eloqua. And so I want to record that against your particular profile. And then you would also get the email reminder as well, which obviously has the link in it to join the session. That's just one example. That's what we call the action step. The action step is the doing, the actual sending of the SMS. You can also, there are two other Marketing Cube SMS functions available for incoming SMS and also SMS link hits. So if people hit links, etc. And then under decisions, this is where the two-way conversation comes into play, where you can automate it to a degree. Have you received an SMS, which is different to incoming in the way you would design and work that out. But imagine if you sent out a communication and asked people, would you like a cappuccino, yes or no? If they reply yes, they go in one direction. If it's no, you might say, would you like a latte? So you kind of have this sort of SMS dialogue going backwards and forwards, prompting them with what to say with a yes or no type of response. So all of that's feasible and available if that's of interest to you. So I just want to make you aware. All right. So at this point, what I want to do is hand over to Adrian because we have a beta story. Now, remember, beta is something that is not quite available yet, but is soon available from a testing point of view. So Adrian, I'll hand over to you.
This is a kind of new connector that we're building for Eloqua and the WhatsApp connector. We know obviously that WhatsApp taking off, and there are plenty of users around the planet, and it seems to be growing exponentially. It's a little bit different from SMS, and so we wanted to explore opening this up as a new channel. You can see here on the next slide, just internationally, the expansion, really big around APAC, and so for some of our higher ed customers, quite interesting from an international student recruitment perspective, but also people doing business globally, maybe a way of reaching more customers. So how does it work? So essentially, Derek, you just jump to the next slide. It's similar to SMS. So it's a way of broadcasting a WhatsApp message and generally it's a predefined message, and you've got the ability to bulk send it. The cool thing about WhatsApp is that you can include longer messages rather than having to send multiple SMS messages. You've got the opportunity to do all your personalization within those messages. So you can personalize them by contact and also based on what you know. You can include images and even include video. You've got about 90 seconds to a 3-minute video. I think it's about 16 megabytes you can include in a WhatsApp message. And the other thing that's pretty cool as well is that you can include quick reply buttons, which could be things that could be links that take you to Eloqua landing pages or to the website or to have a conversation. So you could also start to build out conversational flows where based on a response, we can send an auto responder. So it could be, are you coming? Can you make it to this event? Or will you be attending? Those sorts of things. Then, or an invitation and a link, and then we can shoot back a message to say, thank you, look forward to seeing you today, whatever it is. So you can have a kind of an auto responder in that WhatsApp message. The charging is also a little bit different. So the way that it works is WhatsApp sees it as a conversation. Conversation gets initiated. So you've got a lot more characters, you've got a lot more message to play with. And then if there are responses, there's no additional charge for a 24-hour period while that conversation kind of plays out, if you like. There's a bit of setup. You need to connect it to your business Meta account. But if you're interested in having a look at that as a kind of a proof of concept, it is in beta stage at the moment. We're looking for people that are interested in giving it a try. Please contact us if you'd like to explore it further.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adrian. If you do have any questions or you are interested, please obviously feel free to reach out to Adrian directly at adrian@marketingcube.com.au. The other one that we wanted to talk about was always on campaigns. Now, they can behave like an app, and sometimes it can really make a difference. Let me give you an example. So we had a client a few years ago, worked in the manufacturing space, and delivery of their product to a client site would often be complex. And so they had a single product that would typically be delivered. But if it was a multi-story building, say a large office with 10 floors, the client, the end client, had to provide our customer with details of exactly where the device was going to be installed on each floor within the building. Like it was kind of convoluted. So what they did is actually built a campaign that they could drop people into with some email communications and forms to help gather this information and to automate it a little bit further. Calling it an app is a bit of a stretch, but it was a campaign, an always-on campaign that had a really specific purpose that was actually had nothing to do with marketing. In this particular instance, it was really all about physical facilities and the service team more than anything else. But we can use the construct that we've got within Eloqua to do a whole range of different things, especially where you've got repetitive things that need to be done. So something to be aware of. So what I want to do is show you 3 examples. What's not updated, unfortunately, these 3 links here. I did update them, but I've synced and it hasn't synced for me properly. This top one should be working fine, though. So what we've done here is we wanted to create an environment where we could invite you as our customers to provide a testimonial, essentially. And so what we do is we have an email that would go out following a verbal conversation that we've had with you. We would then send you an email. The email comes from me, I think, from memory. And it says you just recently had a conversation with Adrian, for example. And it invites you to come to this page. So what's special about this page is you might notice this level of functionality here. So what you're able to do here is actually drag a JPEG file. So if we look at this one below, this is an example from one of our clients, DocuSign. And so what you'd be able to do is drop your profile photo directly on here, fill in the relevant information, provide your testimonial in this written space like so. And then once you go through that process, the image itself is stored directly in Eloqua, just in your image library, as all of your other images are stored. We also tag it so it's just not uploaded as, file name 43961.jpg. We actually take your first name, I think it is, your last name, and your email address to construct the file name so that we can find it easily. It's obviously stored in one folder, but yeah, that makes life a little bit easier. And then there's a campaign canvas that's attached to this. So if you upload a testimonial, but maybe don't provide a photo, then we'll send you a nice little email saying, hey, we really need that gorgeous photo to put with the testimonial. Here's some great examples of what others have done, etc., and sort of bring you back to a form where you can just upload the photo, for example. Again, while it doesn't form, it's not an app in the traditional sense of the word, it is a construct or a campaign that can remain as always on, that you can drop people into for a whole variety of different reasons. So the ability to upload here is fantastic. The fact that you can drop in a PDF, you can drop in a JPEG, you've just got to look at file size limits, okay? And the nice thing is, as of release 23B, I think it is, or maybe it was 23A earlier this year, anything that you upload, whether you're uploading it or somebody uploads it using this type of function, Oracle scans everything for viruses now to ensure that that's nice and safe, which is good. So they'll just be rejected if they detect viruses. So it's secure from that point of view, which is nice. And it goes directly into your Eloqua platform and not into a third-party platform that you then need to move to Eloqua. So from a privacy point of view, you've kind of got all bases covered there. So that's just one example. Another one I wanted to show was in relation to profile updates. This one, you will think, well, hang on a minute, Derek, that is seriously way too many questions on a form. And yes, it absolutely is. You can see we even address that here on the form. If you look at the footer of any of our emails, there are two links. There's one that takes you off to our subscription center, and the other one that takes you to a place called Update My Details. Now, you got to remember that we're talking primarily to people just like you, marketers. And so here, what I'm trying to do on the left-hand side is actually explain what the logic is with this particular form. Now, if you reach this form from the email, 90% of it is actually going to be pre-populated. It'll know your email address. You can put a new one in here if that's why you're wanting to update your details. Everything else, what we know, will actually pre-populate. So what looks like a bit of an overwhelming form, it's not really. And you'll notice that the only required pieces of information are, in fact, the email address, first name, and your organization's name. That's it. So it really is designed for people just to be able to update their details should they choose to do so. So you can design that in any sort of way. But that particular landing page and that construct we've just had running forever, essentially. And it gets used occasionally, not a ton, but it does get used occasionally by clients. All right. And then subscriptions, of course, keeping people engaged. So the other great thing about your subscription center is thinking about your less active contacts, right? Those who maybe need to go into a re-engagement campaign of some sort. And quite often incentivizing people to click on anything, especially in a group or a cohort that have not been overly engaged, you've got to offer them something. And so a subscription center can be one way to really give them the power to tell you what they're actually interested in, again, so that you can hopefully send more relevant communications to them. So this is the Marketing Cube subscription center. As you can see, we capture things like your interests. We offer specific subscriptions and a little bit of profile information about you, essentially. So yeah, nice and simple. There are a whole range of ways that you can present this information to people. This is just one example that we wanted to share with you. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. All right. So updates. So release 23C has delivered a range of new functions, which we covered off last month, but I just wanted to cover off, revisit a couple of those for you. But the big one that I'm super excited about, that I literally got word from Jody Mooney. You might remember Jody is the product manager for Eloqua in the US. So Jody sent me an email this morning saying, Derek, drum roll, please. Welcome to the controlled availability of the Oracle Eloqua Zoom app. So for those of you who are not using Zoom, you may want to step away and grab a glass of water or coffee or something, but we won't be too long, so don't go too far. But those who are using Zoom, the big thing, the exciting thing here is that while Zoom has been very much a Zoom webinar application, the updated app now also enables you to use the meeting solution with Eloqua. This is really cool. So we've actually literally had this conversation at Marketing Cube within the last few months where we wanted to run a really targeted type of webinar with some geographically dispersed people. But using webinar was kind of not really the right thing. We wanted to be able to have 10 or so people all on the screen at the same time to have kind of like a roundtable conversation. And the webinar product obviously doesn't suit, but the meeting product is perfect for that. But then we couldn't automate the registration and who is registered, who hasn't kind of exercised within Eloqua. Now, full disclosure, as I said, this is controlled availability, and I've literally learned about it an hour and a half ago. I think I got the email, or saw the email, I should say. So there's more information coming. It will be available to access on the 18th of this month, so the 19th for us in Australia and across Asia Pac. If anyone's interested, I'll have details on our blog post, so you can access the same information in top liners. You just simply need to fill in a form with a few bits and pieces. And as is the case with any controlled availability product, you need to understand and appreciate that it is a testing environment, right? It's controlled availability means they've been through beta, they've done that really heavy testing. What they're after now is controlling who has access to it, just to make sure that it's on the mark and is doing everything that it should do. But you need to be aware and go into it with eyes wide open that it does mean potentially that there could be a glitch, there could be a bug, etc., those sorts of things. So we'll see how we go. Maybe next month we'll use the new Zoom app to organize the Eloqua user group. We'll see how we go. Actually, I think I've already created them, so I can't. Maybe the November user group, which will be live from Berlin. More on that later. Good news. And there's a few bits and pieces there. Hopefully you've read that on screen right now. But more information to come on that one. Look at our blog post or go directly to Top Liners and do some searching. If you can't find it, we'll have the link on the blog post for you as well. So very excited about that one. All right. So the other big thing around release 23C was the expansion of the Redwood design for Eloqua users. Now, the other thing to put in context here for those of you who may be using other products within the Oracle suite, not just Eloqua, maybe it's Oracle Sales Cloud from a CRM point of view, ERP, those sorts of products. This CX or this Redwood design interface is being rolled out right across that platform, or those platforms, I should say. So Oracle's goal is that as you move from Oracle application to Oracle application, that you'll have a seamless interface that means that hopefully your adoption and use of other applications will be far quicker and easier than going from really distinct and disparate, is that the right word? Disparate interfaces across those different platforms. So Redwood is lovely. I'm really enjoying it. I've got it turned on. In order for you to have access to it, you simply just need to log a service request. It's a controlled availability program, once again, and each release, this is now the second release we've had with additional parts of Eloqua moving, and you can see there those bullet pointed on the right-hand side of the screen as to which screens are now also available in Redwood. So how do you access it? Well, if you're in Eloqua today and your administrator has requested access to Redwood, you would come to the hamburger menu on the left-hand side of the screen. And if it's been made available, you will see this checkbox at the bottom of the screen. And once you click on that checkbox, then everything magically changes and you're now using Redwood. So just keep in mind, Redwood is working its way through the platform. So it's not every single screen has changed. And the product team are at pains to emphasize that the old Eloqua 9 screens, and if you've been using Eloqua for quite a while, you'll know what that means. The old Eloqua 9 screens are also on the agenda. Everything's getting refreshed to be completely Redwood. Look, I imagine this might take 12 months, if not a little bit longer, to move through the entire platform, but they're getting there, which is awesome. So this is just an example. This is the email group setup area. So if you've been to that that part of the platform, you'll know what it looks like. This is now what it looks like using Redwood. So just a little bit different. You'll also notice the settings area kind of just simplified and nice use of white space, etc. It's all pretty clear right there in front of you. So that's good. And then fields and views is another reasonably common area of the platform. So again, it's how you access this. I went too fast there. Go back. Now I'm going to go through the whole thing again. What I wanted to show you was one thing that I'm just having to get used to, and it's kind of spread right across the platform, are these three little buttons. So this is like a menu, and in various locations, you'll see that. So for instance, here on the top of the screen, that's going to give you more information and more capability. So when you click through on these various areas, again, you'll see the little menu structure right there. So don't miss that. It's also part of the whole process. Okay, another one that I personally have been asking for, and I think I had a dream at Submit put in some years ago, and this was to set an expiry date for Eloqua landing pages. Now, the simplest example to provide here is you have a registration page for an event. Now, clearly, if that event has passed, that page has to be taken down, or it should be taken down or redirected to go somewhere else. So you've always been able to go in manually and redirect a page. That's fine. That's easy. What you haven't been able to do is actually nominate a time and a date for when that redirection will take place. Now, from the context of an event, it makes perfect sense that if the event is happening at 10 a.m. on a Thursday, then the page should probably redirect at 10 a.m. on the Thursday. Look, it's up to you as to whether you do 9:30 or you do later, whichever the case may be. But this essentially is the new section within the platform. So the externally visible piece, you've always been able to see that. That's not different. The same here with the redirect settings. This one here, if you select that, again, you've always been able to do that. However, it's this part here, the page expiry redirect. So you need to flick the switch to turn it on. And when you turn it on, this information becomes available that's highlighted here within the gold outline. So you expired on a date and a time, the URL that you want it to go to. So it can either be an Eloqua landing page, or you may send them to your home page or somewhere else. And then obviously also a time zone as well. So you've got good control over that. I'm super excited with this one because it certainly makes all the events we do so much easier. I'm now trying to get in the habit of actually creating the page expiry redirect at the time I create the registration page, because the date of the event isn't going to change. So I can just simply create the page expiry redirect at that point. Super simple. All right, there's just a couple of questions here. Richard, are there any good options for WeChat since Eloqua has sunset the WeChat and Eloqua integration? Yeah, that's a really good question, Richard, and it's one that I would need to explore further. Adrian, I don't know. We've got a few clients that have probably seen value in the WeChat as a channel. Do you know if there's anything
Yeah,
to that?
I was having a quick look. I don't, and I think from memory there were some changes to the WeChat API that made it very difficult to do the integration. So I might be wrong, but I think that's where you'll have to go and have a look and see. Not only is there a connector, but is it still up and running and still able to be easily integrated? But I vaguely remember that it was more a WeChat constraint than it was an Eloqua or an Eloqua. So
Right, so it
that's worth exploring further.
might be an industry issue, not just an Eloqua issue. It'd be interesting to have a look across some of our competitors to see if same problem. Sorry, Richard, I wish we could provide a better response to that one, but thank you for the question. Now, coming up next month in October, we're looking forward to having Stephen Strike, who is the Group Vice President of Product with Oracle Marketing. You may or may not be aware, but I think it's the 18th, 2021 this month, September, 20,000 plus people will be descending on Las Vegas. It's not the Bellagio. It's one of those lovely hotels anyway in Vegas, where people will be descending to hear about all things Oracle. And so it's over those 4 days. Everything will be there, not just Oracle marketing, but sales and ERP and databases and the whole works. So Stephen has confirmed he'll be able to join us next month, which is super exciting. Appreciate him doing that, and would love it if you wanted to register now. We will send you an invitation, of course. If you register now, we obviously won't send you a second invitation. We're smarter than that, right? But yeah, we look forward to that because I think there's going to be a lot of information that people are really eagerly waiting on around whether it's AI, whether it's around additional functionality, roadmap information, all that sort of stuff in relation to Eloqua. So he'll be able to sort of filter that down for us and focus just on Eloqua, probably just giving us a little bit of an overview of the bigger picture, but largely focusing on what we can expect from Eloqua over the next 12 to 24 months. So hopefully you can make it in October. We look forward to seeing you. But we're almost finished. We've got 5 minutes. We've done well. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you making some time. Happy to stay here on the line if you do have any questions. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you in October. Thank you again, everybody, and thanks for making some time to join us. Have a great day.